Well, Razorback fans got some great news, especially when it comes to Razorback basketball. No, it's not a national scholarship player, but it's another big game coming to Bud Walton Arena. So let's talk about it on today's Locked On Razorbacks podcast.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. I'm your host, John Nabors. I am also the host of Out of Bounds. You can catch every weekday afternoon from 1 to 4 on 103.7 The Buzz and 103.7thebuzz.com. Hope everybody's having a wonderful Thursday. As, again, we're getting closer and closer to football season and trying to make it all work. And it's funny. It's like I've been really tired over the past few days. And I think a lot of it just has to do with my mind is racing about all the stuff that I get to talk about once football season comes around. I honestly, truly believe that's what it is. So it's still a lot of fun, though. Still going to have a great time. And even though football season is getting closer, we got to talk basketball again. Like earlier this week, I talked about how basketball is such a big deal to people. It's still a big deal to people, and we're going to keep it moving and keep it going because this is an awesome, awesome thing that's happening for Razorback basketball this season. We know with the schedule, Arkansas's already got Duke coming to town in the non-conference slate as part of the SEC-ACC Challenge or ACC-SEC Challenge, however you want to look at it. So really exciting stuff there. But Arkansas announced on Wednesday, early in the afternoon, that for the second straight year, they're going to play in a preseason charity game. Last year, they played against Texas. And this year, it's the Purdue Boilermakers. Do what? Like, when I saw this news, I'm like, excuse me? Purdue? Like, okay, sure. Yeah, charity game, Bud Walton, Purdue. Why not? It's going to be on October 28th, which is a Saturday, at Bud Walton Arena. Both teams are in the top 20, and Purdue's probably going to be really high, maybe into the top 3, something like that. Just depending on what the preseason polls have. But it's not going to be a part of the season ticket package for Arkansas's basketball this year. So for those of you who are wanting to use your season ticket package, sorry, it's not going to be the case because of this one particular reason, which is a great reason. Proceeds from the game will go to the United Way to assist with relief efforts from the tornadoes that affected Arkansas this past spring. So reserve seating in the upper and lower bowl will go on sale to the general public at a later date, and current courtside members and suite holders will receive information in the near future about purchasing seats for this game. Broadcast information and complete ticket information, including when tickets will be on sale, will be announced at a later time. So they have nothing just yet. But Eric Musselman did say, we are really excited to be hosting one of the premier programs in the country for an exhibition game. They will come to Bud Walton Arena with a preseason ranking among the top 5. Both programs will be playing at a high level, Thanksgiving tournaments and everything. So this game will have an incredible level of competition to help us prepare for both early on and through March, much like the Texas game did for us last year. Purdue head coach Matt Painter's teams are known for having great toughness, execution, and consistency while winning at a high level, except at the NCAA tournament. Muss didn't say that. I said that. But Muss continues to go on and say, I can't thank Coach Painter enough for bringing his Boilermaker team to Fayetteville. What a great experience it will be for the fans and to see a game of this caliber so early in the year. Wow. So you got a top 5 team coming to Bud Walton Arena as part of the charity event. And you also have a guy by the name of Zach Edey. For those of you who don't remember, he's like the 7'8", I don't know how tall he is, 7'4", I guess, player for Purdue who's back this year, who was the consensus player of the year last season. And he's going to be coming to Bud Walton Arena. So what a unique situation. Arkansas and Purdue have only met on 2 previous occasions, with each team winning once, both coming on neutral courts. First meeting was back in 1938. Where Purdue won 57-51 in the Sugar Bowl Classic. The last meeting was in 1983 when the Razorbacks defeated Purdue 78-68 in the second round of the NCAA tournament down in Tampa, Florida. So pretty historical stuff for these two teams to be meeting each other, especially at this capacity, especially there in Bud Walton. And, you know, just when I thought that it couldn't get much better for the schedule at Arkansas, and I know that's an exhibition game, so I know this Purdue game's not going to count. But when it comes to an exciting thing to be brought to the forefront of bringing in a lot of people, bringing in a lot of money to a great cause and everything that goes along with it, you couldn't ask for anything more. And I've always enjoyed playing Big Ten teams, especially here in Arkansas and here in Fayetteville. Because Arkansas has actually surprisingly played a lot more. They played Michigan. I'm sure a lot of you remember the home. Arkansas won at Bud Walton Arena, but lost at Michigan. They also played Indiana at home, where Arkansas lost at home, Mike Anderson's last year, but then won on the road, Eric Musselman's first season. So was able to win in Bloomington. So Big Ten teams are kind of unique in that front to where you get to bring them in and have some fun with them and see how it all plays out. But this is a big one for Purdue because, again, you have it's a top 5 team and a guy with Zach Edey that's going to be coming in that might be the favorite to win the National Player of the Year because he won it last year. Couldn't ask for anything more. Just a huge shout out to Eric Musselman and the Razorback basketball team and program for being able to pull this off. Now, we could sit here and talk about what it means and if Arkansas is going to win. Like, we'll get to that point. Like, it'll happen later. But you know what's the main thing that stands out to me about this game? And it was similar to what I said about Arkansas and Duke playing each other. It was similar to what I said about Arkansas and Texas playing each other last year in the exhibition game. This is, if anything, what this tells you is that Arkansas is the premier program in the SEC when it comes to scheduling, matchups, television, everything. They're the ones. Nobody's agreeing to games against Arkansas unless they understand what comes along with it. The SEC and ACC challenge was given Arkansas and Duke because they know that's money-making. That's box office. One of the best teams in the SEC when it comes to television audiences with Arkansas, and the same thing goes for Duke. Kentucky would be the only one that's above Arkansas in the SEC, but Arkansas is hot on their heels and getting to that point. They get it. Purdue and Arkansas with this game. Purdue's not agreeing to play an exhibition game against just anybody. Why would they? But they see an opportunity similar to what Arkansas sees as playing against a team that's really high caliber, that's got a lot of great players, it's going to be an NCAA tournament team, it's going to have a lot of success. So let's make it happen. And to be in a Bud Walton Arena and go into a great cause, it's not going to count win or loss against either one of us, so let's just see where we stand. Let's see how it goes. Outstanding. Arkansas when was the last time that you can say in 1 year, I don't care if it's exhibition or not, but in 1 year, in the same season, you have 2 top 5 teams coming to Bud Walton Arena in the non-conference slate. Because that's what you're going to be having. Purdue's going to be top 5. Duke, more than likely, will still be top 5 by the time Arkansas plays them. That just doesn't happen to average programs. It doesn't happen to just any program. And it's not just great timing. It's showing what Arkansas is and what they're becoming and who is watching them and everything. So what an exciting time. Very exciting time. If you're a Razorback fan, to be able to watch these games and to be able to attend these games. I can't wait. I think Arkansas is going to have their hands full, but I still think they're going to be able to win, especially with some of these guard plays that they're going to have. Purdue was also a team that lost last year, remember? 16 seed. 8 to see it. So they're going to be motivated, but it's going to be great. And so kudos to Razorback basketball. Folks, these days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business, right? So you want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you got to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. Just go on to linkedin.com/lockedoncollege, and you can add your job in the purple hashtag hiring frame to get your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you are hiring. They also give you simple tools to make it a lot easier to navigate. And it's one of the biggest reasons why small businesses rate LinkedIn #1 in delivering quality hires versus those leading competitors. So wait no longer. LinkedIn Jobs is going to help you find the qualified candidates that you want to talk to faster and for free. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, so moving on into the next segment of the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. This one actually got asked by one of my listeners here on the podcast of dealing with a What If Wednesday. Now, those of you know, I did a different What If Wednesday yesterday, but I figured I would take this topic and use it in today's podcast because, again, I don't know how many What If Wednesdays we'll have once it gets really get going in football season. But want to give a shout out to Andrew. Appreciate him listening. But he says, a what if Wednesday? What if you could bring back one former Arkansas football player for any reason in their prime to play in the upcoming 2023-2024 season? Who would it be and why? So these are fun questions to talk about and speculate and navigate and have some fun with. But some people will look at it as just like an easy answer. Like, oh, Darren McFadden, because he's the greatest Razorback of all time. Okay, yes, that's true. That's 100% true. Do not question that. But even if you bring back Darren McFadden in his prime, you're still going to have maybe some issues on defense, maybe some issues, on linebacker, maybe some issues at wide receiver. Like those things where it's like, he'll be great and he would really make the team better. But would it make him elite? Like, would it be a national championship caliber, So I'm going to take a different approach to it. And it's nothing against Darren McFadden, because if you say Darren McFadden, I'm not going to disagree with you. I'm just looking at it from my perspective. I'm going to look at it in this way. What is the biggest need? What is the position group? What is the position itself that can be the difference in Arkansas having a good year to a great year? Well, it's not quarterback, because I think they're fine there. It's not running back. I think they're fine there. It's not offensive line. They're fine there. I don't think it's defensive line necessarily, but we can talk about that in a second. To me, it's more about wide receiver, secondary, and linebacker. Like, those are the three position groups. You can throw in tight end, but I still think tight end's going to be fine this year. But those are really the three position groups that you're looking at to where it could be the difference between being good and being great. So knowing that, who are you bringing in? So if you're concerned about the wide receiver group, it's Treylon Burks. You're bringing him in. If that's the position that you're looking at, if that's the position you're trying to say, hey, we have this guy and it makes all the difference, then that's the guy you're going with if it's the wide receiver position. I'd 100% agree with that. Okay? But if it's not the wide receiver position, if it's the linebacker position, so who are you going with on that? Like, who would be a difference maker on this team? Well, I always really liked Martrell Spate. Solid player. Just a great player for what he was, and led the SEC in tackles. Just did an overall great job. Maybe a Dre Greenlaw, too. He'd be really good. Those are some of the newer players. But if you're really going back in time, maybe bring in a Quentin Caver, who's really good. Or Jermaine Petty, another great linebacker that Arkansas had. I mean, you could go through the mix, because you also got to think about who could play in this modern era of college football. Some of them would be able to transcend it, but those would be a few names that I would throw out at the linebacker position. And then in the secondary, I'd probably lean more towards a safety. Give me Ken Hamlin, right? Dude was incredible. Or Steve Atwater, obviously. I'd take a safety. I think a safety would be the biggest jump for this team. Because cornerback, of course, you could, there's been a lot of great cornerbacks that Arkansas's had that you could throw in there. But I'm looking at safety as far as in the defensive secondary, what you would need the most help with. So, okay. So, wide receiver, Treylon Burks. Linebacker, oh, man. Linebacker, I'd probably go with Quentin Caver, because he was one of my favorites. And then secondary, I'd go with Steve Atwater in the safety position. So between those three, who do you think would make the biggest impact? All right, let's narrow it down even more. Treylon Burks, we all know how incredible he is. But that being said, I believe that you have enough wide receivers, there's enough options there, and then the tight end position to where you can still make it work. You can make the passing game be extremely effective and work extremely effectively without having to have one wide receiver that's really great. It'd be nice. And that's one thing I'm saying, folks. It's not like, oh, that's just, it wouldn't make a difference. It would make a difference, but it's a matter of which makes the biggest difference. So I probably wouldn't go wide receiver. Linebacker and secondary. See, that's a tough one. I like the linebackers of who Arkansas has this year. I do like the safeties. I think there's potential there too. However, I would say that linebacker, I feel better about Arkansas's chances with what they have right now. I like Chris Pupal. I like the transfers that they brought in. I like the coach new linebacker coach. I think he's going to be great. So, yeah, it's Travis Williams. But, yeah, it's like I think that if I'm going between the two, give me Steve Atwater. Give me Steve Atwater. I think him alone would make a difference to where the teams aren't going to think about throwing downfield as much. They're not going to think about, taking a pass over the middle. You're not going to get burned. Like, he's going to be the guy that's going to keep everything in front. And you do that, the rest of it will take care of itself because I think the Arkansas offense will be great. So, if I get one player, give me Steve Atwater. Give me Steve Atwater. And I'm sure you'll have your opinion. It's not a wrong opinion. It's just for fun. But give me Steve Atwater if that's the case. I think he'd make the biggest difference. Folks, this episode is brought to you by Markel. From Fayetteville to El Dorado and everywhere in between, Markel has been helping Arkansas' small business community for over 30 years. Markel is a global specialty insurer with truly people-first approach. To them, insurance is more than just a piece of paper. It's a promise to help you get back on their feet. And we spend a third of our lives working, so on the job, injuries can kind of be expected. You work hard to build your business, so it's important to make sure that you and your employees have the right insurance coverage. Whether you're new to business or celebrating a 25th year anniversary, you have 1 employee or 1,000 employees, Markel aims to understand the workers' compensation insurance needs for your business. Find a local independent agent and get the free workers' compensation insurance quote today at markelinsurance.com/lockedon. That's MARKEL insurance.com/lockedon. Markel, insuring America's small businesses since 1930. Insurance carrier, coverage, dividends, and services availability may vary by state. Markel is a registered trademark of Markel Group, Incorporated.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, so final segment here on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. Shout out to my guy, Bobby Wernes, Razorback baseball assistant coach, who is officially the full-time coach for the Arkansas Razorback baseball team. Just could not be any happier for him. He's a great guy who is very much deserving. He's a third baseman who has played at Arkansas, and he's been the volunteer coach for the past 3 seasons. He's been officially promoted to full-time coach. He's 29 years old, and now he joins Nate Thompson and Matt Hobbs as full-time assistants. And Dave Van Horn even says, I think Bobby does a great job. Players like him. He can coach him. We feel he can recruit very well, and he's going to be great for us, too. He said Bobby turned down 2 or 3 pro jobs every year just to stay here, and one of them making a lot of money, so it's big to have his position stay here. So shout out to Bobby Wernes. Great stuff, man. Couldn't be more deserving. And I can't wait to see what he ends up doing the rest of the way. But appreciate everybody listening in to Locked On Razorbacks podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or on Google Play. You can also get after me on Twitter at BuzzJohnNabors for any questions, comments, concerns that you may have. We'll keep it going from there. Same podcast time, same podcast channel tomorrow afternoon. Have a great day, everybody. We'll see you then.